Have you ever been called strong when all you really wanted was to cry, like the world saw your composure and mistook it for peace? But deep down, you were holding everything together with threadbare silence. Psychology has a word for that. Not strength, survival. In this story, we're unpacking the truth behind people who had to be okay. Not because they were, but because being soft meant being left behind. This one's for the people who grew up thinking, if I fall apart, who's gonna catch me? Let's talk about the real cost of always being the strong one. It starts with something so small you almost forget it happened. A child sits at the edge of their bed holding back tears because they've already learned no one's coming to ask what's wrong. Maybe it's after a fight in the house. Maybe it's a parent too tired to notice. Maybe it's just the way things always were. So they wipe their own face, not because they want to be brave, but because they don't feel like they have a choice. And somewhere inside, a silent rule is written. If I want to be loved, I need to be okay. It doesn't come from cruelty. The adults might call them mature for their age. You're so calm. You're so strong. They don't realize those compliments are quietly carving something sharp into the child's sense of self. Because what they're really saying is, thank you for not needing too much from me. And the child becomes what's rewarded, steady, helpful, quiet. They hide their feelings not because they're strong, but because they've learned that softness gets ignored, that asking too much might make love disappear. So strength becomes the only safe identity. But it isn't maturity, it's survival. Children aren't born strong. They become strong when they realize they have to be. When the people around them are unpredictable, angry, distracted, fragile, a child learns to read the emotional weather before it turns. They notice shifts in tone. They tiptoe instead of run. They offer smiles when they feel sadness, just to keep the peace. That's not personality. That's a child training their nervous system to survive a world where softness isn't safe. They become the good kid who never causes trouble. They learn to silence their needs before anyone tells them to. Because asking for help once led to being ignored, or punished, or told they were too sensitive. So they stop asking, they stop crying, they stop showing. And over time, that mask gets fused to their identity. Because every time they showed pain and were met with nothing, the lesson got clearer. Being strong keeps me loved. But that mask, it protects them and isolates them at the very same time. There's a hidden kind of grief that lives in people who had to be strong too early. It doesn't cry loudly, it just lingers quietly in the way they hold themselves together when no one's watching. It's the grief of never being asked, are you okay? The grief of always being the one who checks in but never gets checked on. You learn to smile while your chest tightens. You learn to shrink your emotions to fit inside the silence that love left behind. You become the dependable one, the one who holds space for everyone except yourself. You become excellent at giving comfort and a stranger to receiving it. People call you resilient, so grounded. But what they don't see is the cost of swallowing your storms just to keep everyone else dry. Because when your identity becomes built around being fine, you forget what it feels like to just be held. And that quiet loneliness is the weight no one ever sees you carrying. By the time you reach adulthood, that survival strength becomes part of how you walk through the world. You're composed in chaos, reliable in crisis, unshakable when things fall apart. But underneath that capability is tension. You're not calm because you're at peace. You're calm because you trained yourself not to react. You're not strong because you want to be. You're strong because somewhere deep down, you still believe that if you fall apart, you'll lose everything. And when someone says, You're so strong, you smile. But inside you wonder, would you still love me if I wasn't? Because strength became your proof of worth. And the hardest part, you don't know how to ask for more love, care, softness, because you never learned that you could. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is also the most tired. Tired of carrying, tired of being the one who always has to be okay. You say, I'm fine, automatically, that because deep down there's a quiet fear. What if I let someone see the real mess? What if my softness becomes the reason they stop loving me? When strength becomes identity, vulnerability feels like betrayal. So you stay composed, you keep being the strong one. Because somewhere in your nervous system is a rule that says, if I'm not strong, I won't be loved. And that belief doesn't come from weakness. It comes from a childhood that taught you love was something you earned by staying small, quiet, dependable. As a child, you were given a silent contract. If I stay calm, they'll stay calm. If I don't cry, they won't get angry. You might not remember the moment it started, but your body does. Every time you held back tears to avoid making things worse, you learned to shrink your needs so love would stay. This is conditional love, a love that says, you're lovable when you're easy. Not because your parents were cruel. Often they were broken in their own ways. But to a child, the reason doesn't matter. What matters is survival. And this is why, even now, asking for help can feel terrifying. Because somewhere deep inside, your body still believes that needing something might cost you everything. At some point, quietly, unexpectedly, it hits you. All the praise you got for being strong wasn't really love, it was gratitude for your silence. And when that realization comes, the identity you built starts to feel like a costume. But here's the truth that softens the ache. You didn't choose that mask because you were fake. You chose it because it kept you safe. Your nervous system made a deal. I'll be what you need me to be. Just don't leave me. But now, you're older, and that contract, it's expired. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. Real love doesn't ask you to be invulnerable. Real connection can hold your softness. So if you're realizing that strength kept you alive, but also kept you lonely, that's not weakness. That's wisdom. The beginning of healing is not becoming stronger. It's realizing you don't have to be. Healing starts in the quiet. The first time you say, I'm not okay, and let the silence hang. The first time you cry and don't apologize for it. You start to learn being strong helped you survive, but you don't need to survive anymore. Now, you're allowed to live, and living means allowing yourself to need. You let someone bring you soup when you're sick. You show someone a part of you that's unfinished and watch them stay. It's terrifying at first, but then nothing bad happens. You're still loved. The armor doesn't come off in one piece. It peels away, flake by flake, and beneath it, you're still there. Not broken, just human, and finally allowed to be. There's a child inside you, the one who learned to stay quiet, the one who carried burdens with a smile because love seemed to require it. That child never wanted to be strong, they just wanted to be held. And now, after all this time, say, "Ayo, maybe they can be, not by someone else, not entirely, but by you. You are allowed to put down the emotional weight. You are allowed to fall apart without losing your worth because you were never meant to be a fortress. You were meant to be a person. You're allowed to unclench, to stop bracing, to receive love that doesn't ask for your strength first. This is the softness you deserved, the safety you needed, the presence you now give yourself. And maybe, just maybe, that presence will invite the right people to meet you there. Not for your strength, but for your truth. Were you praised for being strong even when you were hurting? Let me know in the comments. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. If this reflection resonated, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Share this with someone who has carried more than they ever should have. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time with a brand new video.